Hello and welcome back to Joe's Math Tools, where math is made easy. In our session today, we will be calculating the LCM of three numbers using three separate division ladder. And if you want to see how this is done, let's get started. So in our example today, we will be calculating the LCM of 45, 27, and 54. Now remember that for each of these numbers, we will be using a separate division ladder today. So that means that we're going to be prime factorizing each of these numbers individually and then combining their individual prime factors to see how we are going to calculate to find the LCM. So let's get started with 45. So when looking at 45, I need a prime number that's going to divide into 45 without a remainder. And with 45, there are two prime numbers that sticks out. One is 3 and the other is 5. So I'm going to begin by using 5. So 5 divides into 45 9 times. And now for a prime number that I can divide 9 by, I will use 3. 3 will divide into 9 3 times. And of course, a prime number I can divide 3 by will be 3, so equal to 1. So now that I've prime factorized 45, I will express 45 as a product of its prime factors, which is 3 times 3 times 5. And now to prime factorize 27. So with 27, there is only one prime number that I can divide into 27, and that is 3. So 3 will divide into 27 9 times. And you know we just prime factorized 9 in the first division ladder, so we will be repeating the same steps, dividing 9 by 3 to equal to 3, and then dividing 3 by 3 to equal to 1. So we're now going to express 27 also as a product of its prime factors, which is 3 times 3 times 3. So now on to 54. So now on to 54. I'm going to begin prime factorizing 54 with the number 2. So 2 will divide into 54 27 times. And now for 27, we just finished prime factorizing 27 in the previous division ladder, so we will be repeating those same steps. The 27 will be divided by 3, which will give us 9. Then we will divide 3 into 9, which will be 3. And we will divide 3 into 3 to equal to 1. So now that we have prime factorized 54, we will now express 54 as a product of its prime factors. Okay, so now that we have prime factorized all of our numbers, we are going to begin calculating for the LCM. So we're looking for the LCM of these three numbers. Now with this step, we're going to now begin our grouping. Now whenever you are calculating the LCM, especially when you're using different division ladders, or even if you were given only the prime factors, here's one thing I want you to remember. Anywhere that there is a pair or a group of numbers that are the I would say a group of numbers that are the same, you are going to circle them. So here where I have a 3 and 45, 3 and 27, and a 3 and 54, I will circle them together in one group. Now when it comes to 3's again I have a 3 and 45, a 3 and 27, and also a 3 and 54. So I will group those together. Now in this last column, I have a 5, 3, and 3. Now with these two 3's, I will also group these numbers together. And I'm going to tell you why I'm grouping those numbers. So wherever you have a pair, when you are prime factorizing the number, whether it's using the division ladder or the factor tree, you need to remember that you have to circle that pair, because the pair just indicates that there's a number that has been repeated. So when the number has been repeated, you circle that number so that you will only be multiplying that number once. So that's why we are circling the 3, even though it's only 2 of those numbers, because somewhere in our ladder this number would have repeated. And I didn't plan on doing it in this video, but I guess I can also do a little rough work on the side where I will still prime factorize these 3 numbers on one division ladder so that you can kind of get an idea as to why I said I circled that pair, because again, that's still an indication that this number has repeated somewhere again in the ladder. So to prevent multiplying by that number twice, you will circle it so that you only use it once. Okay, so I hope that definition kind of helps a little bit, but again, I'll still do a little rough work of the division ladder with the 3 numbers on one ladder in the corner on this page so that you can kind of get an idea as to seeing the prime factors for the LCM just from one ladder. Okay, so my numbers that I'm going to be using will be my 2 that is here. I'm going to be using a 3 from one of these groups, so that's time 3. I'll also be using another 3 from this group, so that's time 3. I'll be using 1 3 from this pair as well, so that's time 3. And let's not forget our 5 that's at the top as well, so that's times 5. So these are the prime factors for my 3 numbers to calculate my LCM. And now to multiply, I'm going to work these numbers out in groups because it will make the multiplication easy. So I will do 3 times 2, which is 6, 3 times 3, which is 9, and then I will bring my 5 down. And remember that when you have these groupings of number, it helps when you can just group them together to multiply. There's no shame in the game if you have to group the numbers. Whatever makes it easier for you, do that. If you need to go through the whole long multiplication because you work better like that, by all means, work out according to your strength. You know your strength best, so work to that. Work to, help yourself more. So what I'm going to do now is multiply 6 times 5, which is 30, and 30 times 9 will equal to 270. Now, in looking at my timetable for these 3 numbers, I also did a little rough work after I worked them out just to double check and make sure that my multiplication for my LCM is correct. And with my 45, I noticed that when 45 is multiplied to 6, this gave me 270. So this is how I got 270 for 45. And then for 27, we know that with 27 we will be multiplying by 10, because any number multiplied by 10, it's the same number just with a 0 added on to the end. And then with my 54, I had to multiply this number by 5 to get 270. And in all of their timetables earlier on, I even checked the multiplication just in case, because I don't know my 45 timetable that well, or to even mention the 54 timetable, so I still had to do a little multiplication check just to verify whether my answer was actually correct. So remember, I always talk about going back to the basics, doing your multiplication just to check your answer. If you're not sure, there's nothing wrong with having to do that. Now, what I am going to do in the corner, like I said earlier, just to verify my factors for my LCM and why I told you to circle the number that is repeating. So I will just do a little quick work on that in the corner where I will prime factorize these 3 numbers on one ladder. Now, I want you to remember also with the LCM, there are cases where you may be given one ladder to work with all 3 numbers, or you may be asked to work with the numbers separately. Or it may be a case where you were just given the prime factors and say, hey, calculate the LCM of these prime factors of these numbers, and you may not even know what the numbers are. So you have to know how to use these different methods so that when the question is given to you, regardless of how it comes, you know how to work it out. That's the beautiful thing about math. It can come in any way, but once you know the steps on how to calculate your LCM, it doesn't matter how it shows up, because you are on top of your game, you will know how to work out these questions. Okay, so let's go through prime factorizing. So naturally, since 3 was common to all of these numbers, I will begin with 3. So 3 divides into 45 15 times. 3 divides into 27 9 times. And 3 will divide into 54 18 times. Now again, since I had 2 grouping of 3's, that means that I can use 3 again. So 3 divides into 15 5 times, 3 will divide into 9 3 times, and 3 will divide into 18 6 times. So I will use 3 again, since 2 of my numbers are multiples of 3. So since I'm not dividing into 5, which will leave me with a remainder, I will bring that 5 down in my division ladder. So 3 will divide into 3 once, 3 will divide into 6 twice, and now I will prime factorize 5 since it's the first number in my division ladder. So 5 divides into 5 once. I will bring down the 5, and I will also bring down the 2 since I will not be dividing 5 into 2. And now to conclude our division ladder, I will be dividing by 2, which is my only number left. So I'll bring down my 1 because my first column is prime factorized. I will also bring down my 1 since my second column is also prime factorized. And 2 divides into 2 once. And again, remember when looking at the prime factors on your division ladder, remember that these numbers in the corner here to the left of the division ladder where you divided your numbers from are your prime factors. And if we check our prime factors, you'll notice that we have a 2, then we have 1 2 3 3, so that's 3 times 3 times 3, and then 1 5, which is times 5. So these are the prime factors for our LCM. And if you look at where we did the 3 ladders where I told you to circle the 2 numbers because that means that a number has been repeated, that is why we circle that number so that we do not multiply by that number twice when we should only be multiplying by the number once. Okay, so I just want you to keep that in mind as you are prime factorizing your numbers. Remember that if you know multiple methods, that even helps with checking and verifying your answer. So that's why another reason why it is good to learn your different methods so that they can help you with being able to check your answer across a different method. Because if you are doing the exact same work, when you prime factorize, you should get the exact same answer. Okay, so I hope this was very helpful to you. I know this was a lot to take in this video, but I hope it helped you. I hope it clarified any other questions you may have as relate to calculating the LCM with 3 numbers. And remember to just use random numbers and practice. All of that helps develop your skills. You don't have to necessarily wait for a question to work it out. You can just pull out 3 numbers, calculate the LCM, and help develop your own skills as well. And remember, when you're ready to learn a new skill, return back to Jules Math Tools, where we make math easy.